everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I wanted to go over some of the early reviews and actually focus on a couple of things here. There's two reviews specifically that I want to focus on, and yeah, it gets into a lot of, I think, what the story will be like here for Season 2, and also sort of talking about the end game in terms of how Season 2 ends. And so yeah, I want to talk about all that. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. The show is returning in 5 days from now, so yeah, a lot to talk about. I'll be posting my Q&A video tomorrow, so if you have questions at all, definitely go and join the Discord. The server name is Appetite for the Dead. The link will be in the description of this video. I'll record my Q&A tomorrow, so there's still a lot of time to get the questions in there. And yeah, I mean, we're 5 days away, so I'm just kind of planning out the next couple of days of videos here. I mean, Sunday is going to be my review, my trailer breakdown for episode 2, and all of that. The day before will be a lot of excitement for episode 1 and just focusing on, you know, that, I guess, just like what to expect from the first episode and all that stuff. And so right now I'm sort of planning out the rest of the week here. So tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. It's exciting. When The Walking Dead is here, there's so much to talk about. So yeah, like I said, definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content all season long. But let's actually talk about what I wanted to talk about here. And so first, I want to focus on this article here from IGN, which obviously I already did do a video on. I talked about the general review, like the rating they gave it and stuff like that, but I want to talk about more specifics here in terms of some stuff that they've mentioned here about certain characters and what that could mean for the story here. And so they have this one excerpt right here that I found very, very fascinating. And so it says, "The Book of Carol is paced well, making room for Carol's trek and the big addition to Season 2 connected to her journey, while also making sure that Carol and Daryl have time to reconnect amidst the swarming big bads. Episode 3 and 4 are the most provocative of the 6, though Book of Carol's finale, which I won't spoil, has a final third that's mesmerizing and unexpectedly rewarding as an endgame segment." So I never read that originally. That part right there is really exciting because, I mean, what does that mean, right? That last part of it being sort of an endgame segment, I mean, that really has me excited because that is something that is really exciting, because if it is something that, I mean, I don't know, I'm picturing it being something where it's like Carol and Daryl decide to go back to America. And so it ends with them being like, yeah, we're going to go back and see Rick. And Daryl's like, you know, he's so happy he's going to go and see Rick. But then maybe in Season 3, Episode 1, as they're going back to America, something happens where obviously they end up in Spain, right? Because obviously stuff like that's going to happen. The show is not ending right away. So maybe that's the ending there, and you sort of get goosebumps and you have like these feelings of like, whoa, like they're going to go back to see Rick now. They're going back home. They're so excited. And it's really amazing. And it's sort of, it feels like it's setting up this crossover or like the Endgame spinoff that everyone's talking about, right? So it would be kind of cool to see that. Like, I think if that's what they're talking about here, that's really cool, because I think having Carol and Daryl, you know, like basically on a boat, I guess, going back to America, and it feels very hopeful, like they're going to go back and see Rick and Michonne and, you know, and Maggie and Negan and everybody else at home, right? Like, I feel like if that's an ending to Season 2, you're going to feel very excited about the Endgame spinoff, and it's probably going to give you those feelings of like, wow, this might be what it actually feels like when they're about to reunite, right? But obviously for Season 3, we know that they're going to end up in Spain, so I'm assuming that there's going to be some sort of details there that maybe tease that obviously they're not going to end up going back home right away, right? So I think that that's just really incredible, though, that the finale actually has a moment like that. And again, when you read it, it says, has a final third that's mesmerizing and unexpectedly rewarding as an endgame segment. And so, I mean, maybe it is something like that, but, you know, it probably has to do with sort of ending the whole France arc and whatnot and just sort of setting up the future. I do wonder if there's going to be a post-credit scene and a lot of that, you know, to set up Season 3, because there's no way Season 2 is going to end in such a way where it feels like the story is ending and then Season 3 happens. Like, there's going to be something that happens here. I feel like a post-credit scene makes the most sense in order to sort of build up excitement, because you did that with Season 1 with Carol. So we'll see what Season 3 brings, right? There might be a newer character or something like that. I could see them doing something like that. But to get into the other part here, there's a mention that episodes 3 and 4 are the most provocative of the 6. And so I'm really curious about that. I feel like what that means is there's some sort of, I don't even know, maybe it's stuff between like Daryl and Isabel or Daryl and Carol. I feel like a lot of that drama and whatever that's going to be might happen there. You know, for me, I don't really care. It's all about, you know, just Daryl's story and Carol's story and Isabel's story. Like, it's going to go wherever it's going to go. And so maybe something happens and it's like, oh, maybe this is actually happening. But then all of a sudden, Isabel dies or something like that. Like, I feel like that's likely going to be what happens here. I'm really not expecting Isabel to survive this season. I just think that she's the one character that honestly, it just kind of seems like she's likely going to die, because I don't know why they haven't promoted that character a lot more. You know, they definitely haven't been focusing on her a lot this season, and I don't know the decision behind that. Honestly, after she dies, I likely will do a video breaking down, you know, the story of that character and getting into a lot of stuff there, because I don't really understand entirely why, or at least it hasn't even happened yet. I'm just assuming it's going to happen, but like, it just really feels like it, and I think it's a big mistake. I really do think it's a big mistake, but it depends on the story overall, because maybe while watching season 2, you sort of realize that Isabel's story, it makes sense to come to a close here, and that's the one thing that I've always mentioned throughout the years. Like, you want to kill off Walking Dead characters while they're on top, like to the point where you feel like, oh, these characters can actually do more in the story, and then nope, they're gone, because then you look back on them and then you really miss those characters. And that was sort of the strength with The Walking Dead. Like, you look at Merle, you look at Shane and Herschel, like there's so many characters where you're like, if they were around until like now, that would be so incredible to see, right? And so that's one of the things that I've always said is very good. Like, I feel like the side characters should live for like 2 or 3 seasons at the absolute most, right? And I think that was a big complaint with The Walking Dead, was that a lot of characters introduced around season 6, 7, and 8 survived basically until the end of the series. And so I think that, you know, if Isabel does die, she's a big character, but her being, you know, a 2-season character, that really, you know, she's been around the show just as long as Shane, just as long as Merle, basically, because he wasn't really in season 2, right? From what I remember. Actually, I think he showed up once, but that's my point though. Like, the best characters are characters that are around for like 2 or 3 seasons, at least in terms of side characters. And so if Isabel does die, it is what it is. And I don't know if that's what they're referencing here, because they're saying that episodes 3 and 4 are the most provocative of the 6. And based off of all of the reviews so far, episode 4 seems to be like the big episode. They're saying the best episodes are episodes 4 and 6. I've heard some references to 5 and maybe episode 2. Basically, everyone is not really talking about the premiere that much, but that's, I mean, that makes sense. Like, episode 1 isn't going to be the best episode, right? Like, that would be pretty sad if episode 1 was the best episode. Actually, that was the case with The Ones Who Live, but we didn't know that back then, right? Episode 1 for The Ones Who Live, to me anyways, was the best episode. I think the best written episode was episode 4 for sure. Like, you can obviously see that. There's a lot of emotional scenes there between Rick and Michonne, a lot of really amazing moments. But in terms of just the overall Walking Dead story and getting all of this story, like a whole consistent, I guess, telling of, you know, Rick Grimes' story in episode 1, like, it just felt like something that we've seen before from The Walking Dead, but it felt bigger, and it felt like it was on scale with like a movie. And so that's what was really exciting about that, was seeing that, you know, this is what The Walking Dead could potentially be like in a movie, right? Like, that episode definitely felt like a movie for sure. And so, yeah, I think that episode 4 is the one to look forward to. And then obviously the finale seems to be the one that everyone's really talking about. And if the ending here to the episode is something that is very mesmerizing and unexpectedly rewarding as an Endgame segment, I'm really excited about that, because I can't wait to see what that means for, I guess, the future in season 3. I've seen a lot of reviews talking about that, talking about the fact that they're very interested in where season 3 goes now, just based off of how season 2 ends. And so that's really good. Obviously, you want to end season 2 or a season in general with some intrigue on like what the next season is going to be like. And so I found that really cool. And the other interview that I wanted to talk about here comes from Tammy Reese, who you can follow on X just at Tammy Reese Media. I'll leave a link down below to the article. Definitely go and check it out. But she praises the season here, and she actually has an interview with some of the cast here. So definitely, I really recommend to go and check this out. Honestly, it looks absolutely incredible here. But the one thing that I really liked here was this very last part here. So first of all, she says that as for the finale cliffhanger, you can't always get what you want. Thank you for a season 3. So that part there has me really intrigued. So if there's going to be a finale cliffhanger, you can't always get what you want. I'm assuming that, I mean, I don't know what that means. Like, something is going their way, so maybe it's because they're going back to America, they're happy, but something is going to be revealed where it's like, no, they're probably not going there, or something like that. Or maybe somebody, like, I have no idea. I honestly really have no idea. I'm just trying to think, because obviously they're going to Spain, and so I don't know, maybe it has something to do with a newer story or a newer walker or something like that. But what I also really like here is a lot of, I guess, just sort of like awards basically given to certain moments or characters or highlights of the season here, and this was honestly really incredible. So stars of the show, Daryl and Carol, really awesome to hear. MVP of the season, Daryl and Carol, that's really awesome. Character growth, Laurent and Falou. I've heard that in a lot of the reviews that Falou becomes a much bigger character this season. So that's really exciting because I liked him a lot, I believe, in episode 3 of season 1, and then he just sort of faded away after that. So the fact that he's actually going to have a lot more character growth in season 2, that's awesome. Characters that will surprise you, Quadrone. I feel like that makes sense because I think that he's going to eventually side with Daryl and Carol, I think, in the end anyways. Character storylines to follow, Isabelle and Janae. That I find so fascinating because I've always been hearing about Carol and Janae. I know Janae's storyline and her backstory, her origin, all that will be a big focus this season, so that makes sense. Isabelle, I mean, I'm really excited to see what her storyline's going to be because if she's dying this season, I hope she really gets an incredible story this season. But my favorite episodes 4 and 6. So again, I've heard this quite a bit. Like episode 4 is a really good episode, and also the finale. Most heartfelt episode to watch, episode 4. So again, episode 4 is really, like, that has to be a big episode, which means that maybe there's a death in that episode, because the last one here says hardest episode to watch, episodes 4 and 6. So it looks like there's going to be a death, I'm guessing anyways, or something that happens here in episode 4. And then episode 6 as well, I'm guessing there's going to be more deaths and just like, I don't know, a lot of chaos and stuff that happens, because to me, this seems like it's going to be like the final battle and whatnot to the season, right? Like a bunch of battling, the ending of character stories and whatnot. Like think of this as like the ending to the Savior War, right? Like the first season was very much like season 7 and whatnot. Now season 8, that's sort of what we're getting here. It's going to end everything here, and obviously not stretching out the whole story like that arc did, although I think it did it well, but I don't know. I think like half a season less would have been good for All Out War, but obviously I think for Daryl Dixon here, for 12 episodes for this whole story, I think that's perfect. And then you just go into a new story, a new arc entirely for season 3. That's what The Walking Dead always did, right? 2 season arcs. And so I'm really excited for season 2. I can't wait. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.